Hey, welcome back to the Brookfield Group's live stream. We have a new special guest with us today. This is Sean. He is the president of Data.
El Presidente.
El Presidente of Data at the Brookfield Group. And of course, Daniel is here as well.
I'm nobody.
He's a nobody.
Nobody.
I'm
a loser.
That's not true.
Loser.
So today, we kind of touched on it a little bit last week. We are going to talk first about passwords and best practices, and then we're going to move into something newish called advanced data security as it relates to email. So, passwords. Chris, can you pull up the
follow up
infographic?
from last week.
Yes.
Have you actually looked at a password manager?
I have, because I knew
Have you actually used it?
I knew I
Have
would
you
get
put
in
it in
trouble
place?
this week. No, I'm evaluating 3 different password managers right now.
What 3?
I keep calling it DoorDash, but it is.
She gave all of her passwords to the DoorDash delivery person.
It is
what happened.
LastPass, Dashlane, and One Something. One Pass. One
I don't
word,
think
one something.
Chris, is Sean's mic on? Doesn't sound like it's on.
Do a test.
We need help.
Do it. Test.
Help,
Test,
help.
Test. The rarely ever seen Chris. Normally he's the voice in the sky.
So just yell.
There we go.
Oh, now I can.
There we go.
Woo!
We're live.
Do we need to put like the little like thing that pops up when you're having technical difficulties on a stream?
It's a big caution above my head.
Yeah. That's what we need to get the like the Sims things.
Yep.
That would be above our head.
Okay.
All right.
I'll get Rock'em Sock'em for the next one.
So you're
and
using
you do the
DoorDash, Uber Eats,
yeah.
or what was the other one?
LastPass. It's
One
probably,
Password, or
I'll probably
Dashlane.
do. Yeah, I'll probably do LastPass.
LastPass.
That seems to be like a better one. Most people I know use that, unless you're an Apple person. Then you use Chris. What is it you use?
iCloud Keychain.
Yeah, iCloud Keychain.
I use Dashlane.
Same.
Dashlane.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
mean, Dashlane's the one because as soon as I have technical difficulty, you know where I'm coming, right?
Just as long as you change your passwords once you start using it.
Yeah.
That's the big
Yeah.
key.
That was the thing I liked about Dashlane was it had like the password reset,
The changer.
like where you can like go and it'll just click it on just like one click change on. Seems like about 30% of the passwords that I have.
Yeah.
And then it gives you a little report and says how many of your passwords are really crappy, or how many are reused, and that has a little gauge. It's like the fit, or it's like your Apple Watch, like trying to close your rings.
You want it all the way up? Just all passwords are terrible.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, just remove all of them. Just delete them all.
So passwords, I did a little bit of research and put together an infographic, which I love. The average person manages about
Can you pull that up?
100,
Oh, it's over there. I see it.
100 passwords. Each person has about 100 passwords.
Seems about right.
I think that seems like a little high for me, but then when you start going and you like
Every bank account, every login to
your
Target.com.
grocery store,
Yep.
every
Every
app
login to
you
Target
have
HVAC.
and so then
Best way to get in.
Yeah.
one company did a survey of how many passwords out of 15 million passwords.
It's more than that.
Yeah.
It's more than that.
What, a little more than that.
It's 15 billion or 15 trillion.
What is it?
Something on there. Chris, can you pull that graphic back up? That is billions.
billion.
Billions,
That's
billions, 15 billions. Only 2 billion were unique.
Well, what's that? There's that database that's like 15 million of the most common passwords. That is like.
Yeah, it's
I forget what it's called.
I think that's where this came from, this little factoid.
Do you remember what that's called, Chris? Or can you, with your infinite power behind the scenes, can look that up? I forget what that's because you can just like upload that into like a testing database
Yeah, that's
or whatever.
like the quickest way to try to.
Yeah.
You don't even
brute force it. It's got like password 1, 2, 3 and
QWERTY and.
Yeah, all the great easy ones that everyone likes to use. Leanne,
I don't use any of those.
you don't.
I don't.
Yeah. Well, luckily you won't use them anymore.
I won't,
It'll be all crazy alphanumerical ones.
The real question is, what are you planning on using for your main password?
Correct. Yeah, because that's the main
all that
drawback in
matters.
all of this.
Yep.
I've got a good idea of what I will use.
Yeah.
Can we? You want to put a hint?
No.
See if we can
because
guess it.
All right. First test passed. So tip number 2: don't
Yes,
share your passwords.
Don't share your passwords. Don't email or text them. That was another hint. Use longer passwords. That was another
Or
best
passphrases.
practice.
Passphrases. Quick
Passphrases.
ground fox.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jumped over.
that's
the
a don't
something
use
long.
or a use.
Use passphrases. So
Okay.
really, the characters you're using don't really matter as much as the length does for complexity.
Interesting.
So even though to you it's like, oh, an exclamation point, that looks secure. Like to a computer, it doesn't care.
because it's just a character.
just a
It's
character.
gonna
Yep.
Mhm.
okay. Don't reuse passwords. We were just discussing that, so that's good. Check against commonly used.
Yep. We'll find that list and we'll
Yeah,
put
I've got it in
somewhere.
that infographic. Pull that up again, Chris.
we had the top 10.
Yeah, the top 10
Yeah.
most commonly used ones.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then through 9 or
Password 1 through 3, 4, 5.
QWERTY.
Pretty,
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 1,
1, 2, 3.
1.
Is that 6 exclamation points?
I think those are all ones.
Oh, those are
Yeah,
even better.
yeah. Even better.
I try and not have any repeating characters. So
Yeah.
they're all different. Of course, something we talked about last week is the MFA, Adopt MFA, or I like to call it what's the wrestling thing?
MMA.
MMA. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to put that MMA on that.
I mean, if you have an MMA fighter protecting you, you might be all right.
He's the only one that knows my LastPass password, and if you want it, you have to beat him up.
Password manager, which we talked about.
Yep.
And then change after you've had a compromised event. That's a big one. We had a customer this week that had a compromised event, and the first thing we told them is go change all your passwords quickly.
Change them all. Change them all.
Change them all.
And most of the password managers, even like Google's password manager now and iCloud will prompt you when
Alert if
like
there's
there's been a breach on was it LinkedIn had another one this year. It was like another 50 million user passwords leaked again, so yeah, just make sure when something like that happens, you change your password, because people like to use Facebook people like to reuse passwords. So if like Facebook leaks, then you can use that to get to the next thing, and down the chain, just work your way in the circle of security.
And don't publish the answers to your security questions either. Like people are like, oh, what's my first dog? Oh, my dog's all over my internet.
Yeah, yeah.
All over my Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Leanne, looking at you again.
I didn't, I didn't do that.
What's your mother's maiden name?
No, I'm not telling that either.
Okay, all right. Question number 2, she passed.
All right.
All right, we're good.
Or my grandfather's first name. That's always a big one too.
Grandfather's first name.
What is it?
I've never heard that
I'm
one.
not telling you.
It's probably a really good name.
Mhm.
It is a good one.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Grandfather.
Grandfather on my mom's side's an even better name, but they never ask me that one. They always ask my maternal grandmother and my paternal grandfather.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever used that one.
Just really trip up the hackers and just answer it wrong.
Mhm.
They'll never know. Just
But
use
then
the
I've
other
got to
one.
remember.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Then there comes your password manager.
Yes.
Note section on that
Yeah.
password, and you're perfect.
Right in the vault.
Yep.
All right,
perfect.
I'm going for it. I'm gonna get
Okay, so are
DoorDash
we
by
gonna put
next week.
are we gonna put a timeline on that?
Yes, I will have it complete.
So update next week.
by next week. Yeah.
Leanne will have a password manager. Okay, put it on the calendar.
With passwords changed.
Probably
yes.
not.
Yes. Because I
take the
can't
under on
really
that.
remember any of them anyway, so I'm gonna have to change.
That's true.
So secure, Leanne doesn't even know.
So
I don't even
yeah,
remember. I just,
that's the best level of security.
anything else on passwords? What about Microsoft and passwords? What was that?
Yeah,
we were talking about
Chris
earlier?
informed us prior to the show that Microsoft wants to get rid of passwords. And so Windows Hello is one of the things, Apple Face ID, stuff like that, you're going more biometric. The thing, and I said this to Chris too, is what I don't understand with Windows Hello is that the backup, so if you don't get logged in first try, it is a 4-digit PIN to be able to then get into it. So if you just saw our most common passwords. If someone can't be bothered to type in a password, they just want to use their face, they're probably going to do like 111, 222, 1234, or something like that. So how secure is it?
I think you
really
can restrict at the domain level though if you need to.
just have it only be on
Like to either be your full password that meets company password requirements, or for like your basic computer, it's like and all I need is a PIN.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know.
Hmm.
Verdict's still out on that point. I do like the fact that they're moving with Authenticator or with Duo or others where you can have a known fingerprinted device like your phone.
Something that's signed, yeah.
Yeah, that you can say, okay, when I get the push to log in, I can just say, yes, I accept it, and you go right through it. So that I'm a little bit more on board with.
Yep.
But still, it's our door control system now is all only through our phone, because they've done the study to say that that's likely more secure than an RFID tag that you're likely to leave laying around somewhere or forget about or anything like that.
Or leave it home before you go to work, and then
That
but
too.
you're never without your phone.
Yeah.
At least some people are never without their phone.
Never.
So I found a list from Nord, which is the 200 most used passwords of 2020, most common passwords. And
Are we sponsored by NordVPN
I
yet?
think we are now.
Sweet.
Use our code.
Sweet. Use our code.
This one was interesting. Picture one.
Oh, it's a new one. It's moving up the rankings.
I mean, it took 3 hours to crack. That looks pretty serious.
That's kind of the whole stats of how long it takes to crack is kind of insane. Like less than a second for almost all the top 10.
Picture one secure.
Senna. Oh, QWERTY moved down.
Oh. People are on to QWERTY.
Aaron, what's he doing? Or she?
Aaron.
OMG pop.
QWERTY UI up.
66666.
Oh boy.
Ashley.
If anyone sees their passwords on this right now, they should hurry up and go change them like right away. Somebody's using Jacket 025. Dragon. Pokemon. Wow. It's an enlightening list, that's for sure.
I haven't seen any of my passwords.
I've seen like 7 of mine. So
this one
There's
takes
some good ideas I'm taking from this.
Yeah.
12 days for this one.
yeah, see, that's secure.
Yeah.
Less than a second.
Oh, 1Q2. So it's QWERTY, but it's
Oh, yeah. Alternating.
yep. Hey, I'm number 77.
86, we're going to have to blur that, Chris.
That's your the keys to the kingdom right there. Purple Samantha 888. Well, there's some really crappy passwords
Yeah,
on there.
don't
You
use any
shouldn't
of
use
these.
them.
Yes.
Use any of those. Those should just never be your password in general. So okay, so I think we've really
Talked about
wrung out
passwords.
everything about passwords.
All right.
So
Let's move on to advanced email security.
what's that?
What's
Who said that?
Who said that? So it can, from what I was reading, it can actually go both ways. Things that you send out and things that you come in. So with layered security becoming more and more popular and more adopted rate, I should say, email is the easiest place for hackers to get in, or for ransomware, any of that kind of stuff, malicious stuff to get in, is through the email system. So let me look at my notes here. One report said 94% of malware delivered this year was through email. 94%. Sounds about right?
Yeah.
Think? Okay.
Yep. That's where we see primarily all of the attacks that we deal with on an almost daily basis.
And phishing attacks this year, Q1 and Q2, is up 62%. So it
Over last year, just over like
Just
year to
year-over-year.
year. Year over year.
Yeah,
Wow.
year over year up.
That's crazy.
Seeing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the legacy.
So that many hackers are like going out fishing?
I know.
Like
Gone-
go get
gone-
a rod,
gone
reel,
fishing.
boat, and everything,
Got
and
a
they go
hole in the
fishing.
ice.
Gone
yeah.
fishing.
Yeah. We're getting wintertime.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's ice
exactly.
fishing now. So we got where there's spear fishing.
Yep.
There's whaling. Is there ice fishing as a term for
I
security?
hope we didn't just create it.
I hope if we did, we better pioneer something about
I'm
it.
getting the URL as soon as this
Maybe our marketing campaign is we're icing fishing.
Ooh.
So like we're cutting out the ability for people to fish.
I like it.
There it is.
You little
Just-
closet marketer.
Just don't get an auger on a thing and a little hat, and don't talk to anybody from Minnesota. Just don't do it.
Stay out of it.
Yeah. I don't. Who thinks that's a fun thing to set out on the big block of ice? Not me.
Hey, careful.
Some people have some pretty fancy shelters they put out
Yeah,
there.
there's-
Just like theirs.
Yeah.
True.
Okay, sorry, I
all right.
derailed this a little bit.
I
so
like the ones that look like a
62%.
real cabin.
Yep.
And then inside is like an ice floor.
A hole.
Yeah, the hole.
Just swimming.
jacuzzi.
Okay, so legacy email security is not going to cut it anymore. So what is new in the email security world?
What is legacy at?
Legacy's like old school, I would say. Maybe just using like Microsoft Windows, whatever's built into that, instead of some of the newer tools.
Yeah. So a lot of it's we're conventionally just always a firewall, basically, right? A gateway that's bringing in all the email, and you're hopefully just catching it right at that one layer and looking for definitions or other known attacks. And then
Creating whitelists, blacklists,
Exactly.
IP blocks, domain blocks, things like that.
and which is it's good, but it's only goes so far. People can easily spoof against that if you don't have SPF or sender policy framework turned on, which is checking to make sure where your email originated from, making sure it's actually coming from the company that claims to be that company. Yeah, a lot new tools coming out too. Those have been around for a while, obviously, but now there's spear phishing is probably the biggest one, like you were just mentioning, that's really come about to.
Yeah, because it comes in as nothing malicious. Like you'd just be purely like a normal text, no malicious link, no nothing that would like normally like say, hey, you should block this.
Yeah.
And then It's like, okay, it gets through to the end user, and at that point, they're impersonating somebody within the organization to get them to do it. So there becomes like things like intent analysis. Is that how they normally speak to their employees? Like, I usually speak very rudely to my employees. So if it comes across really nice, that can't be me. So,
but that's the thing is they usually go after C-suite. They usually look at who are the people that would believe this email if I try to give a sense of urgency, because they want to appease their boss. They want to make sure that they're doing what's right. And usually it's buying gift cards or
I need $1,000 in gift cards right now. I'm in a meeting.
I gotta
Can't be
go.
bothered. Go get it.
And and so they'll just create like a Gmail that just says Daniel Abdallah and send an email. And if you're not careful and watching that, it's, oh wow, this isn't Daniel's Brookfield account.
Like at Gmail or at Proton Mail or at something along those lines, and then it can be anything you want.
And all the conventional checks that would all go through because that's a clean email from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing who's actually in your domain to say, nope, this is not actually Daniel's, or this is not validated that it's Daniel's actual personal real email.
I think it's going to increase, especially coming into the holiday season. You know, I get them all the time in an old account that I have that's, you know, your order from Amazon has been delayed. You know, of course, you're like, oh, I did order something from Amazon. I mean, who hasn't?
Yeah, UPS, FedEx, all those ones are always
yeah,
targeted.
so you like click on it and you're just like, no.
The one I've seen a couple times is like thank you for your McAfee security renewal.
Yep.
It's like, oh wow, I didn't know I did that. And then you go and
or LinkedIn Connect or
LinkedIn. Yep, exactly. Yeah.
So always best just to go to the source and not actually click on it or hover over and see where the link's about to go.
Yep. So I mean, there's like you mentioned things like URL filtering, anti-spoofing, attachment scanning and analysis, and sandboxing is a bigger thing, which is where I'll actually open it up, see if there's something malicious hidden in that attachment before it'll send it. So you can have it send the email and hold the attachment, and then later it'll just show up in your mailbox, which kind of weird witchcraft magicry.
Or URL redirecting, I think, has been getting more popular too. Where
What's that?
So they'll send you a link that it goes to some website that they control, and initially the spam filter might not pick it up as a malicious site, but they then later, after it's been sent to you in your email, they'll redirect that website somewhere else that actually does become malicious to you. And so there's ways to protect against that, which is you basically redirect it always to your spam filter. So whenever you click it, it gets checked right at that real-time filtering, as opposed to just relying on what it was when it went through once.
Have we moved completely over to the security layer of email being at the server level, or is at the client level, is there any security that's actually happening anymore?
So I guess it's less of the client level and more, I guess, the mailbox level. I mean, there are things that we do on the end client PC, but it's more the legacy is you filter it right when it comes through, and then it's either made it or it didn't, and you're good to go. There's now a lot of, especially with 365, some API integrations that let you dig into the mailboxes and scan it in history. So if something that previously wasn't malicious or something new attack came up and it was realized, you can actually go and remediate it out of the user's mailbox, as opposed to sending an email like, hey, if anyone saw this email, go delete it, and good luck, and hopefully they see that email before they see the malicious one.
Yep. Yeah, and so something gets through, we get an alert about it, we see this thing about it, we can see who all received that email. We can also see if it's one of the ones where it hijacks someone's email and then sends out a whole bunch of emails to like their entire like contact list. We could also then see who all of that got sent to from the outside of the organization. So in the event where you actually have to follow a remediation plan and action plan on that, that compromised event, there would be a log to say, these are all the people internally that received it. These are all the people that received it externally. We can remove that message, remove all traces of it from there, block all of it at that point, and then we can easily send out a message to all of those that received that email to say, this email was malicious, do not interact with it, do not click on it, we have now remediated it.
And we can even go a step further with that also, is with the forensics, you can also basically say this was an attack, and so then if it actually comes in again, it's now been known and can alert that, hey, these messages are still coming in.
Yep.
And see how everything interacted with it.
So it can actually learn from the events going forward.
Yep.
So.
Because we had a client, was that last year that happened to?
It's happened, yeah. It's pretty common, because the other issue is it's only certain things, as long as like that, you can actually go back and fix, but some of it's just as good as the user is at learning on how to deal with it. So like there's been a time where email actually went to someone's junk folder, so it means the spam filter did effectively what it should have, but they saw someone's name in it, and so they're like, oh, this is actually someone important, this is my CEO of the company, I'm going to go do what's right and help him. So
like, oops,
even
it
though
got stuck.
Yeah, even though it made it to the junk folder, they still dug it back out and went and bought some gift cards. So
Yeah.
So user training.
Yes, that's my last note on my paper here. Training, training, training. So got to stay up on top of all the new stuff coming out. We offer training as well, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So we have. I mean, there's obviously different levels in that. There's the 10 quick tips or whatever, like hover over a URL, which with URL redirecting, it doesn't really do too much anymore with like the spam filtering or the email security that we're using. But like, double check, hover over the person who received it. If it's like your CEO's name, but you don't expect them to hover over, is it a Gmail account or is it your company domain name?
Is there misspellings?
Yeah.
Don't download pictures until you know the sender and all that stuff. So you're not downloading malicious content. Don't open up attachments you don't expect. Yeah.
Yep. And so that's one level, just kind of like the quick, like glossing over, like here are the top 10 tips or whatever. Then there's a whole nother level, which is awareness training, which is simulated phishing attacks or simulated attacks that go into users' inboxes that they follow all the same things that are in the industry right now as far as like leading attacks that are out there. Simulate it. It's non-malicious, but it has the same effect. Only difference here is that it logs who actually participated and was, went into and opened up the email and interacted with it, and then puts them on a list that they have to get training, gives them a quiz, gives them additional training information, either a video or documentation they have to read, and then quizzes them to make sure they actually learned it.
It's really like whack-a-mole. I mean, it's basically they figure out how to get in one way, you block it, and then it's just constantly back and forth of figuring out how to stop the new attacks. And
if you get gift cards once, you're an easy mark. You're a mark at that point. And so, you've once it happens, you got to really tighten up security to make sure that you learn from it and you actually implement things to improve your security posture after that.
Because I think the training itself, yes, but it needs to be continual training. Like even though, I already taught me about, a spear phishing campaign. It's like you have to just keep reiterating it.
And that's where the training's great because it shows people where they may have misstepped. Did they click something? Did they open something? Did they forward it to someone else where they shouldn't have? And right then, it's not just I know this. It's hey, this is actually a learning opportunity for you, and be able to explain this is the best practice as to how to manage this when it happens.
And as an organization now, everyone's now familiar with like the blue check mark, like on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that, like a verified account. So there are ways now. I've been playing with it is to like verify as a company, like us as Brookfield could verify us with a certificate authority that say we are who we are, and then it also in the contact information, like an Outlook or anything now, it puts a little icon next to whoever, and usually it's like it'll be like a B because the Brookfield like domain or it would be TB in our case most of the time, but we can actually have it be our logo, and so then that can validate that you are a verified sender, and then you can also have it be where an individual can get a cert that can say I, Daniel, part of my company, am verified, and then there will be a blue check mark next to it in the event, and then it will do things like, I think it's called SMIE, or I can't remember what the breakdown of it is anymore. But if like someone sends me an email with it, or if I send someone with an email that has an attachment or any of the verbiage in it, on my browser or on my iOS device or any device or anything like that, it in the notification that pops up, it by default hides what the message is. So it will just say from Daniel, but you have to click into it to actually then view the message. So if it goes an extra layer of security of saying like a unattended device that's receiving email won't just show you what the message was. So been playing with that a little bit. It gives a little hiccups because if you don't get it right, it does the very inverse thing, which is makes it seem like I'm immediately a malicious person because I'm not verified at all, and it does like a red banner
warning.
Across all of it, warning,
Danger.
all this kind of stuff. So you have to get it right before you implement it, otherwise you'll do more harm than you were intending to do.
So going back a little bit to passwords and notifications, Luke from the chat asks, do you all use the 2FA authenticator functionality of your password manager, or do you use a separate authenticator app to get 2FA codes?
So Dashlane, by default for me, uses, if I log in from a new device, it has 2FA built into it where I either have to authenticate from another, like an authenticated verified device, or I have to go to like my email or something like that to be able to get access to it, which I use 2FA on.
Same.
Blanket across TBG, all of our apps that have 2FA have 2FA enabled, and everyone hates Sean and I for it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Change your phone.
Where do you? What's your Venmo account again? Can I send you $10 like we talked about to say that?
But we use a separate, an external authenticator app for our 2FA.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So I think their question is,
Do we
Luke,
have our
clarify
own?
your question if you're
That-
still there.
if you're still in the chat, but like, so if we were using Microsoft products, do we also use Microsoft Authenticator to do 2FA?
we do not know. I mean, I don't.
What's best practice there? Is it best to use a third party, or
It's best to use one, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Microsoft, I think it was a year or so ago, basically said, get rid of your, like, so many things use SMS for 2FA. Don't use that because that can just be easily compromised, almost just as easy like your password can at this point. But I think anyone, as long as you're doing something, I don't know if I haven't necessarily taken the time to understand if there's a best practice one. We've used ones that integrate the best with the tools that we have. And that's really more the best practice in my mind because it makes it easier for everybody.
Yeah, as long as it's easy, because if it's not easy, people won't use it. So
Correct.
that's where like Duo came, where it's rather than having to type in the 6-digit rolling code, you can hit approve, which sounds simple, but that was enough for certain users that they're much more willing to adopt it when it's that easy for them.
Yeah, unintrusive as possible with the amount of the greatest amount of security gain is probably the best place you want to be right now. Good question.
Yes. Thanks, Luke. Any other questions in our chat? Chris?
he's not going to clarify his question though?
Oh, okay.
Wow. That seems very rude.
Any other questions? Questions?
Going once, going twice.
I have a question about implementation of policies.
Federal
ca-
policy, because I have
well,
no clue on that.
So let's
You
say
narrowed in a little bit here.
let's say email policy or requiring people to have 2FA. What kind of obviously employees will do a pushback, right? So they won't want to do it. What's kind of some tips that you can give people when they roll out something like this in their company?
The one thing that I've seen is insurance companies, cyber insurance companies are requiring it. So it's good for, your IT guy to say, hey, it's not me saying that you guys have to do this. It's our insurance company and we all have to be in compliance.
Yeah, that's a big driver in a lot of cases to get the user, because it's not that they don't trust us. It's like, oh, this is so hard, I don't want to implement it. But now it's like, hey, there's this authority that's actually going to means real dollars right at that time. Because it's always, people don't want to think about security until they have an attack. And that's like good security, it's blocking so much that you don't realize it's. That's where, like, if people were like, oh, our spam filter's not doing well, you're like, do you want me to let through everything it did, Brock? Like, just because you got one email that happened to make it through, like, there's so much.
Millions. I'd have to look at our current security gateway for email, what the count is. I don't know if we can even pull a lifetime count, but it's got to be billions of emails and spam that we've blocked over the years. Yep. But yeah, I mean, it's like the one that gets through, and as opposed to the hundreds of thousands that individual, just that user probably gets over their lifetime career at whatever company that is.
I think back to policy, it's not necessarily exactly your question, but one of the big stances we're changing with our email policy is that we're trying to really not use allow lists and block lists. I mean, block lists are okay, but allow lists are really usually a Band-Aid for another company that didn't set up their IT structure correctly. Like just recently we were talking about someone that didn't have their DKIM set up. And so we take the stance that just get us in contact with your IT. We're happy to help you. We want everyone to be set up because sure, I can do your allow list, but 20 other companies you try to communicate with are going to be also blocked for you. And so to just protect everyone, it's best to follow the best standard practices.
Well, the big thing too with security in general at a company is has to be a united front from whoever the decision makers are, because if you get one person that starts saying, oh, well, if they're the one that wanted to do it, I didn't want to do this, then that just starts to put a divide between the people that want to do it and just causes a rift. They're going to always be the people that see the value in it. And then there's going to be those people that probably see the value in it, but the inconvenience is so high that they don't want to deal with it. And then, but if you have a united front, or you have the reasoning well laid out or explained to say, here's the reasons why, and this is the benefit to you, to us, and the security that it gives us as an organization, that is a much easier conversation ongoing, and that makes it easier for the next layer that comes in.
Good question, Chris.
The voice in the sky.
The voice in the sky, which Sean kind of touched a little bit on, I think, what we're going to talk about a little bit next week, which will be a disaster recovery plan. A lot of people don't have a plan, and like he was mentioning, they don't think they need it until it happens to them, and they don't understand what everyone's roles are, how to recover their data, where all their logins and passwords are, and how did I have all these administrators in my account. I mean, so there's like audits that you can do in the meantime, and one of the services we offer here is how to build a disaster recovery plan.
That really gets into your business practices too, even just beyond IT. Like there's a lot. It's a real conversation.
I think that's some of the things that I think gets lost sometimes is I need a disaster recovery plan or something like that. It's like, well, that affects more than just is your data backed up or do I have a copy of it or what happens in the event. It really goes down to like the full business practice stuff. So we'll get into that next week, but it's a very detailed conversation, more so than just saying you need this thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of like we brought up today, insurance is asking for it more and more, especially now with like remote like work.
Yes.
Like what happens when there's so many things like that can break down a chain. Like one person's internet could go out, which then if they're key to getting something done can have a ripple effect on everything else. And that isn't even like what disaster recovery would have been, or business continuity would have been defined as previously. It was more of like our internet at our office and everybody doesn't work, or like a core thing of our infrastructure is down. But now like, with a Comcast outage at someone's home or in a region or an area, that could affect tens of or hundreds of employees. That could really actually affect how your business is operating that day.
Yeah.
So,
especially with all the weather that's been going through. I mean, there's going to be, it's tornado season, it's ice season, it's flooding season, it's everything is just, it's crazy out there.
Yep.
It's crazy. So if anybody's interested in having a phishing campaign done at their company, get in contact with us. We can tell you all the ins and outs of that and get that set up for you. Otherwise, we will sign off and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
see ya.
See ya.